How's everybody doing today? You're watching Slot Car Mayhem. I'm John, and this will be episode 10 of the Glendale 65. And today we're going to talk about part 2 of the track wiring, and that will be power distribution. If you recall, in the last episode, episode 9, I went through part 1 of the track wiring, and that's where I decided where I wanted my power taps and how many, and I came up with 8, 6 of them being located directly preceding the digital lane change sections, and an additional 2 to ensure I had no more than 10 joints in between power taps. Now we need to go through the concept of how are we going to get this wiring spread across the layout. Okay, what we're looking at here is I refer to these as power distribution joists. And these are just standard 1x4s, and I have them cut 6 inches shorter than the joists that are on the track. So these are 7 foot 6 inches in length. I've got terminal blocks mounted. These I just picked up on Amazon. They're very inexpensive. They have little plastic covers that pop off that have numbers on them. Makes it really nice, keeps everything well protected. And the wiring also transposes all the way down, and we have more additional terminal blocks here. Now that being said, these here, this is the south edge of the track. That will be the north edge over there. And as far as the track itself is concerned, the edge with the control unit where you would stand is the south edge of the track. The edge along the wall where the screen is would be the north edge. So these are transversing the width of the track. And I have one located on the east end, one located on the west end, and one located in the middle. The main reason for having these joists is right now, currently, I'm pretty proud of the fact that I've gone as far as I have with the layout, and I have yet to crawl underneath. I'm over 6'4", and me crawling underneath the layout to do things like wiring doesn't really appeal to me all that much. And since I'm using the L-girder system, this is a great way to make sure that I've got easy access to everything. These main terminal blocks will be located on the outer perimeters, both on the south edge and on the north edge over there. And the key concept is to, right here, this is my middle joist, and all the wiring will come from the control unit, including the sensors and everything, and it will be distributed back vertically up to the track sections, and then they will also tap off and go off to these other joists, or these other terminal blocks here on these other joists. And everything else I have controlled will come through, out through this, and be distributed through regular wiring like I have here to the other locations, which will be transferred back to the north edge of the table as well, providing very easy access for me to do the wiring without having to crawl underneath the track. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look and see what we have for our wiring so far. On, in this case, it's the west joist. You can see here I've got my red, I have my black, but I also have an orange, a brown, and a purple. And this orange, brown, and purple is what I'm using for color code. All of this is color coded. And these here are for channel 1, channel 2, and a common negative for the roadway lighting that'll go over the track throughout the entire layout. And that's why these will come from here and be distributed to the north ends of the track, just like the track power. And the reason why I'm using 2 channels for the roadway lighting is, first off, they're going to come on in groups. I don't want them all coming on at one time. They're going to come on, and then the second group will come on. And they're also going to be driven off an Arduino, which is a little computer board that you can program. And they will come on very soft and you know, gradually brighten up to where they need to, much like you'd find in the real world. And that will be controlled wirelessly through the fast clock, and it'll be pretty seamless. They won't just boom pop on. They'll come on in groups, they'll come on soft, and they'll work their way to full brightness. And same thing when they turn off, they'll drop down to a lower value and then gradually fade off the way you would normally see in the real world, once again in groups. So this will make it a lot of fun, and it makes it very easy, where I have 2 channels and a common negative to do what I want to do. Okay, looking back at the track, one thing you don't see is I also have a white, a blue, and a gray, and you don't see these here currently at this point in time. And that will be a very similar thing, 2 channels with a common negative for structure lighting. And the reason why you don't see the wiring here on these joists is because all my structure lighting will be, all my structures themselves will be on the south edge of the layout, and there's no need for me to carry it all the way over to the north edge because there's not going to be any structures over there. So they'll just be controlled and distributed from here to the applicable terminal blocks, and the connections will be made with no need to take it to the north edge of the layout. One of the main reasons why I'm using the joist system to go ahead and do my wiring from one side of the layout to the other is the ease of use. I can just simply slide the joist in place and it just sits on top of the L girders, just like so. And I've got a little block right here, and that's just my spacer block. And then I keep my little screw in there, and I can just run my screw in very simply, just like that. Get a screwdriver, tighten it down, and my joist is in place. And I've got my terminals right here where they're easily accessible. Looking forward into the future, when this is closed off and I have my fascia on, I will do the fascia in a method where I can just remove a section of the fascia very easily, and I can get to these screws and get to the terminals right from the front of the layout, do what I need to do. Or if I need to, and I've got enough slack built into the wiring, put that back in that hole, I'll be able to just drop my joist down or even slide it out, and I can do my wiring right here, just like this, without having to crawl underneath the layout. And in the event I decide I need to add another circuit, let's say I want to run some sound modules on the other side of the layout, once again, it's very easy to just pull the joist out, add the additional wiring that I need to add, and drop the joist back in. No problem. Very quick, very simple, and very reliable. So here we are on the east end of the track with the east joist in place, and I have the connections made already. I have the power taps in place, and I have them connected to the terminal block. As you can see, there's a fair amount of slack in the wiring, and that's one thing we do want. We don't want any of this tight, and this will allow us room to bring the joist, drop it down flat if we need to, or if we want to pull it out, we can pull it out and make our connections, make it much easier as we're moving forward. And one benefit, that even though I don't have the power taps run currently back to the control unit, right now what I do have is taking the voltage from here, and it's distributing it all the way down the joist to where I have the other power tap. And now the voltage on this side of the track, which is pretty close to the control unit, and that side of and the north edge over there where I have a power tap, will be the same. So you'll have very small voltage drop simply by running this joist without having to do any other connections. But I will run these back to the control unit and distribute all of my track power equally to all the terminal blocks. Okay, and here we are again at the north end of the track, and you can see I've made my additional connections here running through. And let's take a look at the wiring itself and where it's going up to the track. You can see it kind of just goes through a couple clips here just to help keep it in place, and it will feed its way up underneath the track. And I have my power tap connections there. If you notice, none of this wiring is tight, but it's not sagging, and that's what you want. You don't want this run real tight, because as things move around, you could end up causing problems. And it also gives us plenty of room to be able to take this joist and do what we want. One thing that does need to be noted is you want to make sure your control unit is off when you're making these connections, and then go ahead and check it by turning it back on before you connect this joist to the power end of the control unit, because this will tell you if you have a short. If you have these wires crossed, that will be a short. So By doing so, we can make sure we've got good clean track power. Okay, now what I want to do is I've set my digital multimeter to a 20 volt setting, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to check track voltages just to see how well the track voltage is balanced between this section here where the power taps are and this section over here where that power tap is, and the two are now bridged together. So we'll check that real quick. I'll start at the control unit and check my voltages. I've already turned the control unit on. Nothing is connected to the control unit to this terminal block over here, but by turning the control unit on now, I know there's not a short, otherwise it'd be yelling at me. So let's check our voltages and see what we have. Okay, I'm about 13.86 volts. And if I come over here to the power tap, okay, 13.83. So there's a little bit of a voltage drop there, but that's not unexpected. So let's check our far side now. Now that we're about 18.3 volts here, we should be about the same here. Yeah, 13.8. Yeah, 13.82 here. So this did a pretty good job of just simply balancing out the power and increasing the voltage here. I used to be running about 0.09 less in this area than I was at the control unit, and now there's less than 0.01 of a voltage drop between here and here without doing anything else than electrically connecting these sections of track.